Starting your own venture needs a lot of persistence and, more importantly, some handholding and mentorship from people who have done it before. In today's video, I'm super grateful to have Maneet Gohil, who is the co-founder and CEO of Lal10, which is a business built on the beautiful foundation of connecting the rural artisans of India to the global market. He has also featured in the Forbes India list of 30 under 30 and also happens to be an awesome storyteller. So let's hear about the inspirational story of how Lal10 started. Hey Maneet, finally I can see you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Doing good, all fine.
Hey, can I start by saying how excited, firstly, I am to have you share your experience and insider Gyan because, I have been working for so many years, but always in a full time job. And this whole thing of starting your own business and running it successfully, I mean, it's a whole new world for me. And I'm so excited to be chatting with you and knowing a little bit more about it.
And thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be on your show and doing this. I've always been a big fan of your travel vlogs. Where I've definitely made a point to see your travel vlogs wherever I have been to a couple of few places I have been to.
Okay, let's get started. So, firstly, just to set some context for the video, I obviously want to pick your brains on, how you started this whole journey of Lal10, what were your motivations and things like that. But as we move forward, I definitely want to know a little bit more, like the ground check stuff. Like, how did you go about your testing the business idea, or how did you find a mentor? How did you guys scale up? Those kind of things. So I think it'll be very helpful if you could start with a bit of background about Lal10. What is its business model and has it evolved over the years? Because that's just going to put the rest of the discussion into perspective.
So I run a company called as Lal10. We are basically a marketplace of rural artisans and SMEs which create handmade products. So we also call it as creative manufacturing because in a sense it is manufacturing of goods which is made out of hands, but not by machines. As for the last government census in 2011, uh, it said that around 9.1 million artisans are there across the country. It's a big population of artisans making into these kind of products. And on the other hand, our contribution to the demand side is just $8 billion, and the global demand is close to around more than $120 billion, right? So, as a fact, we have around 42% of the global artisans, and our sufficing to the demand is less than just 8%, right? So I think there's a huge disparity in the entire supply chain of the craft industry. But moving on to not the numbers, but how it all began and what we do as well. I'll start from very basics actually. So my grandfather was an artisan actually, and he had his own unit of shoes, which he along with his other fellow artisans used to create, and then they used to sell it through a shop. And then my father became the first engineer in the family, and I apparently became the second engineer in the family. And so every engineer, what they do MBAs, right? So you basically and you're all clueless. Like at least I was clueless at that time while I was doing my MBA, that why I need to do it. And as I was doing that, I realized that it was not something I wanted to do. It was not an inner calling which I had. And this was the time when I was also introspecting in terms of what can be done. And during the winter vacations of my college, in the time I was doing my MBA in 2013 to 15, so this was in 14 January 2014 January. I was visiting my family, my parents, and my father is a government servant. So he was stationed in a small village in Uttar Pradesh called as Pata, and I was visiting there, and I was doing nothing good, right? So I was just killing my time in vacations, waking up late afternoons and doing nothing much in that small village for those 2 months. So my mom found out that so this guy is of no utility right now. So she was also actually part of a social work she was doing as part of a women network she had in that village, that I would say that colony. So my mom took me to this village. It was in the village of Pata, um, and I visited this place, and I saw a group of around 56 women there, very young and passionate. They would be around 25 to, I would say, around 35 years of age. Uh, Very passionate, and they were creating handmade paper diaries. Okay, and I saw these diaries, and I saw that these diaries are very awesome actually. So you can sell these diaries at close to around 300, 400 rupees in a bigger city, because I've seen those diaries on Pepperfry, or I've seen those diaries on Fab India's, or even Delhi Hearts, like the exhibitions, right, where we see these products.
Yeah.
And I asked these people how much are they selling me it for, and they said that it is like 15, 20 rupees. That's it.
Wow.
And I then went again the next day to this village, and I wanted to understand that what is their basic purpose of doing it actually, and are they generating sufficient income also or not. And the disparity was that even though uh, even though these women were creating these products, but they didn't know where to sell these products, right? And even though the product was so cheap in price and so good in terms of quality, that it can any day match a quality of a Fab India's product. And that was the moment I realized that I think this is big enough as an opportunity. Let me create a platform or a discovery platform, because that was the basic problem which I identified. This group of artisans or rural SMEs or self-help groups do not have access to markets. That was the beginning, and honestly, it was not an impact-led decision. It was more of a business-led decision. I am a Gujarati, and I think more of a I think it was more of a market-led or opportunistic decision, which I thought that maybe if I can sell this 25 rupees piece at 100 rupees and not at 300 rupees in a city like a Fab India, but even at 100 rupees, then still I have a margin of close to around, or markups of close to around 300% to cap on it. And these poor fellows will get a lot of business. I came back to my hostel. I was pursuing my MBA in Mumbai, and my majors was into supply chain and operations. I actually wanted to know that how many of these kind of people are there. Are they one off in a state, or are there so many of them? And that's when this data popped up, right? Which I was telling you, that 9.1 million artisans formally, and unorganized artisans are still around 200 million, right, across the country. And this is the largest employment generation sector after rural, after agriculture in the rural part of the country. But I think I knew that was my calling, and I had to do this. So there was no plan B actually, right? So there's always a plan A, that let's do this. I bunked there almost 1 year of that college, traveled across the country, 22 states, uh, getting into understanding the real problem. Even though the artisans were creating different lines of product, I think the problems were common across the country, that they do not have access to the markets. And as I was traveling more, my understanding in terms of problem became much more stronger. And it was primarily also design, like, because a lot of these artisans have been creating products which no one wants to buy. Like, people do not want to buy a sari or a dupatta. People want to buy a dress. People want to buy a cushion cover, right? Or people a table linen, right? And this has a huge potential. Actually, this has a huge potential globally, not in India. Across Europe and US, sustainability has become a big point, wherein the big brands like Zara, IKEA.
How much time did you spend in doing this research?
So I never went by the books actually. And time and again, it's been around 5 years. I talked to a lot of young entrepreneurs, and a lot of people who are just venturing into starting their businesses. I think a lot of people go by the books, that I want to dedicate this much amount of time in my research, this much amount of time into finding an idea, or this much amount of time into what problem I want to solve. Right? I think I think it's not about an idea. Actually, it's about execution, which I've learned over the last 5 years. In terms of my market research, I think everything went in parallel. So from day one, I knew that I wanted to do this, and I started working on to building how I can connect that group of artisans in the village of Pata to the market. But the solution which I thought that time was to create a website actually. It was the era of Flipkarts and Amazons doing so well, right? And I also wanted to be one of the B2C companies. So I didn't have a lot of money actually, honestly, because I was also a student. So I took a loan and I didn't tell my parents actually. So that was my education loan which I took. So I got the fees from my parents and they gave me the fees. But unknowingly, they didn't know about it. And on the receipt of my college fees, I went to a bank and they gave me a small loan of 3 lakh rupees for that year's fee actually. So with that money, I had a capital with me. That was my initial funding, I would say. So the first thing which I did was that I went ahead into creating a website. After trying for 1.5 months of coding and traveling across the clusters, I realized I cannot do this. Not my piece of game. So, and then I thought that it's about story building, right? It's about artisan stories, telling a story of a woman in Pata to the world, right? So let me write good blogs and let me take these blogs to the world, and then people would know about it, and then they will come to my website one fine day. I started writing it, and I realized I was not a good writer as well, right? And then I thought that okay, not writing, then let me work on creating some good photo shoots and photoshops posters, right, which can show artisans making a product. And I think because photos, videos eventually sell much more than written content. And I tried my hands into learning some tools and other things, and I failed in that as well. So by third or fourth month, while I was traveling and figuring it all of this to plug in points to take this product to the world, I was failing in everything. So then what I did was that I registered my company, and I registered my company as a private limited company, right? And since I was a company, I was eligible to participate in internship fairs in good colleges, right?
Oh, okay.
So then what I did was that with my registered entity, and I asked one of my friends who was creating beautiful posters in college. I asked him to create a logo for my company, and he created a logo for my company. And on letterhead, we reached out to placement committees of literally all the premier colleges like the IITs and IIMs and FMS, MDI, and all of these colleges, right? Told them that we're looking for internships. It's called as a life project or weekend internships, whatever you want to name it. No, none of these colleges knew that I was still a student. And surprisingly, you would not believe that we got like around 350 odd applications over a weekend for several positions. And then what I did was that it was impossible for me to basically scout or go through all the applications. So in my dorm, I had a lot of friends. I distributed the applications among these guys, and these guys interviewed this college students from like even design institutes like NITIE and NIFTs. And then we had in a 3 to 4 days time, we had a good pool of around 18 very interesting and very smart interns, right? Like smarter than way what I was for sure. And these guys were the best in terms. So like we had IIT Bombay guys coding our website. We had a group of guys from IIM Ranchi doing price analytics, and there were some guys from IIT Jodhpur who was traveling to nearby clusters and onboarding more artisans, right? So now I do not have to travel everywhere to get the artisans on my website as well. By the end of that year, I still remember by 26th of October, it all started on 4th of January 2014. And on 26th of October, it like almost took me 10 months to do this. My website was live. And then sales started coming up, a lot of college peer groups, because since I already was spread across so many of the colleges, right? People knew about it. Yeah. And people were engaged. The word of mouth spread so fast among the college community that they started following us and wanted to place orders as well. By the end of that year, we did a total sales of maybe around 12.5 lakh rupees. And then I was moving out of college now, and I told my parents that this is going good. I want to pursue this. And my parents said that you cannot do this right now because you need to understand how a corporate world works, and then you do whatever you want to do on it, right? Coincidentally, what happened was that uh, Flipkart was coming to my campus for recruiting, and I got placed in Flipkart. And somewhere I convinced myself that since it was e-commerce, a big giant, right? And Sachin and Binny from Flipkart were like demigods, right? And then I convinced myself that let's go to Flipkart. I went to Bangalore and in Bangalore started pursuing Flipkart, understood the entire game of B2C, and realized that I could not ever do B2C with my company because at that moment as well, Flipkart was burning a lot of money. And one thing which I realized was that in a B2C space, what happens is that you need to spend a lot of money so that people know about your website and they come and then make a purchase. And and being a Gujarati, I wanted to always run this startup as a business, right, and not as a startup burning cash. But we always never believed into raising capital. Like we always wanted to run this business sustainably because this was a for-profit business. With every product you sell, the product margins are nice, and you just need to scale this business. That's it.
But all this while, was your website running in parallel and still making money?
Yeah. So while I was in Flipkart, though I was not able to focus a lot on the website, but then I had a lot of interns, right? Like who were now in second year of my college and who were acting as COOs and CBOs of the business, and these guys were running the show. Yeah. In the day, I used to work at Flipkart, and at night and till morning hours, I used to work at for Lal10, and it went for almost 10 months like this. And one fine day, and I had a lot of learnings, an opportunity to meet Sachin, Binny, being in the same room and know how things work as well. I was strongly encouraged by my senior directors there when I told them that I do this in parallel. And and I still remember a day when one of my senior directors came to all of us and they said, "Do you want to work in this Flipkart forever, or you guys want to create more of Flipkarts?" Right? And I think that sense of entrepreneurship and encouragement was always there. And then, since I was talking throughout the day, my roommate also got excited about what I was doing actually. And my roommate, I knew him since my engineering days, right? So he was my batchmate in engineering, he was my batchmate in MBA, he was my batchmate in Flipkart as well. He was part of the supply chain design team there, while I was part of the center strategy team in Flipkart. So he got excited and we became co-founders, right? And then we started this journey, and we then one day decided that yeah, we cannot do both of this together. So we have to either do Flipkart or either do Lal10. And there was no option to lose Lal10. And we then decided to move out of Flipkart. We had enough savings for us to sustain for almost around 10 months more from Flipkart. And we cut down all our expenses. And we were on the streets of Bangalore, Indiranagar, Kormangla, and JP Nagar, Jayanagar, Chickpet, and with bags full of saris and fabrics, selling these to local boutiques and everyone. Now something which happened was that we were also losing a lot of money, and we never actually knew that we can also raise capital, right? So then what we did was that we were participating in a lot of business plan competitions. We participated in each and every competitions. Like you name a competition and we have been part of it and won it actually. So it was IIT Bombay Eureka or IIM Ahmedabad Master Plan, ISB Idea, or IIM Indore, Delhi College of Engineering, IIT Madras, or I don't know. Like there's so many of them, and we participated everywhere and we won. The objective of winning was simple, that we would get a cash, and that cash was our bootstrap amount. So that was we kept on participating in these competitions, and we got a capital of around 18.5 lakh rupees just winning these competitions, right? In these 18 months. So these competitions are also basically judged by a group of panels. So one of these guys was the ITC CEO of the paper division. And he basically awarded us, and that was on 30th of January, I remember, 2016. And the next day he gave us a call and he told us that, see, whatever you guys are doing is awesome. I like the passion, the energies and everything, but this is not going to work. And eventually we felt bad about it, how this big guy can say that it cannot work. And we took it on our ego, sir, aise kaise bol sakte ho, it doesn't work. So we asked him that, sir, why do you think it would not work? So he said that, see, you guys are doing a B2C commerce, right? And in B2C, what generally happens is that unless the goods are standardized, like an iPhone or a earplug, which a Flipkart sells, it's easier to sell a product in B2C in a marketplace model, right? But while you are not acting as a marketplace eventually, and you ask the artisans to sell a product from their small villages to wherever the buyer is, it becomes a challenge primarily because the artisans do not want to hold inventories of product as well, because that's their bread and butter. They would want to liquidate it in their local markets, or if a middleman comes to buy the products from him. That was one big concern, and he said that you need to move out of B2C to B2B. And then he told that he started something called as eChopal at ITC in the early 90s. And I'm not very sure if you know about it, but what they used to do in eChopal was that they used to organize unorganized farmers with the help of a micro entrepreneur, and that micro entrepreneur they used to call him as Sanchalak, right? And the Sanchalak was skilled by ITC in terms of using their systems or quality controls, and that Sanchalak would take a group of unorganized farmers to take the farm produce directly from the farmlands to wherever the ITC factories were. And it eventually evolved as good models for ITC's Sunfeast brand. So he said that I've done this, I know how to do this, but I've done it with the farmers. But the entire rural setup is same. The farmers and rural artisans are more or less in alignment in terms of the personalities, right? Personas are very same. And it's not like every day you get a call from a CEO of an ITC, right? So, and we were like just running this from our 2-bedroom apartment, which was an office in the day and our house at night, actually. So we said that, okay, we'll do whatever you say. And I think we are fine with it. And he became our first mentor. So I think that became a very strong backbone for the company and a strong moat, wherein today we have 1,200 artisans spread across 8 states, and these are monitored by around 30 micro entrepreneurs. One of a company, I can say, at least in this sector in India, only Lal10, which is doing this. And we have scaled this model from state to state and have made it much more scalable.
So that's the beautiful story of how Lal10 started. Don't worry, कहानी अभी खत्म नहीं हुई है, अभी तो just शुरू हुई है. In the next part of this video, Maneet shares all about how he and his co-founders scaled up Lal10, and also shares his valuable advice and tips to the new entrepreneurs on how to deal with the day-to-day problems of a startup life. Part 2 of the video releases tomorrow, so definitely keep an eye out for that. Meanwhile, if you like this video, please give it a like and share it with people who you think might find it useful. And please definitely subscribe to Insider Gyan, because that's a huge motivating factor for me to continue bringing such interesting videos to you guys. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Bye.